When you buy a modern controller, you usually have to pick between a modern feature set and form factor and kind of a retro style D-pad and stuff like that. But what if there was a controller that lets you have it all? That's right, the 8BitDo Pro 3 does it all, and I'm really excited about this. I've heard nothing but good things about this controller, and I'm on record for really liking the 8BitDo Ultimate 2C, and this is the fancy step up. Inside the box, we get our controller, we have our dock with our dongle already inside. Oh, it's a Type-C dongle, that's interesting. We also get a 3-foot cable. We get our joystick replacement, kind of like a classic arcade fight stick sort of thing, because not only are the joysticks replaceable, but the buttons as well. So you can kind of swap between Xbox layout as well as Nintendo layout. One of the things that's really cool about this controller is that it is sort of a hybrid between a modern PlayStation style controller and a classic Super Nintendo controller. And I find before you actually get your hands on this, it looks like it's gonna be a horrible time, but when you actually hold it, it's a really comfortable experience. It fits really well into the hands, very natural hand shape. All the buttons are well within reach, although there seems to be something missing. There's supposed to be a magnetic, oh! Inside the dock, we have our little magnetic button puller. With replacement kind of Super Famicom style buttons, so that's pretty neat. I might actually want to use these. There's a little alignment notch to make sure that you can actually get it in correctly. And what I'm finding is that you can definitely take off these buttons without the magnetic puller. It's nice that it's not super hard, but I could see these getting lost or a child pulling them off fairly easy. But the good news is, once they're on, they feel pretty good. They're snug against whatever mechanism is inside. So there's not like an extra amount of give. I would say that those buttons feel okay. They're pretty noisy too. I don't love the finish on the buttons either. It's like kind of too glossy. It's also not a perfect diamond. That's kind of interesting. It's like kind of stretched. But that's fine because that's sort of the angle that your thumb lands on the controller anyway. Start and select buttons are super mushy, just like I remember the Super Nintendo being. These little buttons are fine. How's the D-pad though? Because that honestly might be the most important thing about this controller. There's a lot of really good modern style controllers, but there's sort of a dearth of good retro style ones. And so if this can do retro stuff well and modern stuff fairly well, I might be interested in this. It's okay. D-pad is better than most modern controllers. It's got a nice little click when you get to the bottom, but the actual D-pad doesn't move a ton, or doesn't feel like it moves a ton, and so it feels not super satisfying to press, but it doesn't feel like I'm gonna get a bunch of false positives. So I think that that's, you know, B plus territory. We also have our TMR joysticks. That's kind of the new fancy selling feature. Tonello magnetic resistance, which kind of gives you the benefit of the higher accuracy of Hall effect while maintaining a lower power draw, which means that your battery life should be better. Overall, face button experience, pretty good. How does that go to the top? Where we have our Type-C, our connection button, we have left and right bumpers, left and right triggers. These are Hall effect triggers, and the spring on them feels pretty good. Definitely not the highest tier I felt, but certainly within the realm of pretty nice. And then we also have our extra L4 and R4 buttons, these extra bumpers. With my short little sausage fingers, I would have to sort of stretch to reach them. So I don't think I would put anything assigned to these that I need really quick access to, but it's certainly there for like a map button or something. And luckily there is actually 2 back paddles, which is even better for stuff that I need to press more often or more quickly. I'm a big fan of back paddles because that allows you to put like sprint on it. I hate holding a face button to run, man. But not as much as I hate holding the freaking left click. Hate that. The other thing we have on the back is actually trigger locks, which is really cool if you're using this in a competitive setting. And that's actually a very satisfying little click. Sometimes controllers with the trigger locks, when you kind of go in the quick reaction mode, it can feel kind of crappy. And so I actually think this is very adequate. Feels pretty nice in both the modern size, although these sticks are definitely close enough your thumbs could rub. I think that's always the big complaint with the PlayStation style ones, if you have big hands, is that can be a bit of an issue. It might have been nice if they stretched out the controller just a tad, but because the D-pad is actually above the joystick, it feels much more natural to play in a retro style grip. This is a really nice hybrid. I'm actually very impressed. Going back to the back, we have a mode toggle. We have kind of our two Bluetooth modes, the S input and D input. And then we have our S and X input, which will be using the dongle, which is probably the preferred way for most people to be using it. But this is one of the great selling features of this controller is that it actually will work with your Switch as well, making this a very versatile controller, especially now that they are really going hard on the classic games on the Switch. And while I'm all for extra functionality, I can certainly see this being a little bit confusing for people where they're gonna have to try the different modes when they're connecting to different pieces of hardware. And it might just get a little overwhelming for people who are just getting this controller. And the last thing on the back is we have our little charging pins, which is really cool. Because this comes with a nice little charging dock, you just put it in there and it would charge if I plugged it in. I think that's really neat, especially for a more premium controller to have its own charging dock. It's nice to have a place to put it. You don't just like leave it on your side table, forget to charge it. Although the battery life seems to be pretty adequate. It has a 1000 milliamp hour battery, which for a controller like this is pretty good, especially if you use it on the lower powered Bluetooth modes. Before we proceed, I need to try these joysticks. I can't imagine I'm gonna anything but laugh at them. Those are very cute. I really like the way that that looks. I really don't like the way that that would feel. I think it's one of those things that you do for the fun of it. It's certainly not gonna give you a competitive edge, and gets your thumb has to be so elevated from the controller, whereas before, you know, you're kind of somewhere around there, now you're all the way up here. It's not like you can't control it. It would certainly be a bit of an adjustment, and I think the thumbs kissing issue will be even greater if that's an issue for you. I mean, what's cooler than thumbs kissing, right? Right? I could see this if you were playing very retro games that were originally played with a joystick. I could see this being kind of a novel way of doing it without pulling out a whole arcade stick to do it. It accomplishes the purpose of fun, overall a positive thing. And although I really like this magnetic storage system for the buttons, I don't think the joystick toppers are gonna fit in here. It would have been nice just to, I don't know, have a little spot. Even you could put little clips on the dock and have them sit on the dock. I don't know, I don't need this to be a matte gray monolith on my desk. Not a big deal in the slightest. Do you know what is a big deal though? Our sponsor.
Thanks to Pebblehost for sponsoring this video. Launch your very own dedicated Minecraft server in seconds, starting with just $1 per gigabyte. With powerful Intel i9 and AMD Ryzen CPUs, along with unmetered NVMe storage, you can have unlimited player slots that have full file manager access. Servers across the globe, including North America and Europe, as well as their 24/7 live support, means you can worry less about downtime and more about creepers. Minecraft creepers. The first 200 signups at pebble.host/shortcircuit will get 10% off, so go check it out today.
Plugged in our controller. You can't plug it into the computer via the dock. These are just charging pins, so you have to plug in the controller directly. And when you do that, you can update or you can adjust profiles for Windows or Switch by customizing what each of the buttons do. Pretty nifty. You can set macros. You can adjust the dead zones on the stick. These are TMR sticks, so they better not need a freaking dead zone, dog. You can invert the axis on a controller level or swap the left and right joysticks. That's just a nice little accessibility thing. And then the triggers, you can change the curve so that you really only need a little bit of a click, although I hope that the button removes the need for that. Okay, yes, if you use the click, it's 100% right away. So that's more if you're using the analog style. And vibration. You can actually hear the magnetic buttons vibrating. Oh, no, that's not what it is. It's just general jank. That's my new D&D character. That vibration's not particularly impressive, but maybe in games it's gonna be a little bit more. So let's pull up a game. We're inside of Castlevania Bloodlines, the most underappreciated of the classic Castlevanias, in my opinion. And we're just kind of testing out the retro side of this controller. These buttons aren't great. They like almost have like a whip sound, which is appropriate for this game. But it's like they're too mushy, but they're not tactile enough. It's hard to put my finger on exactly what it is. I don't think the sound that they make every time I click is helping. Luckily, the D-pad is pretty adequate. In a game that requires precise inputs, I think that this would be pretty good. The tactility of it feels like it's gonna wear out, but that's not something I can test in such a short amount of time. But out of the box, this retro experience is pretty damn solid. I just want to keep playing, which is exactly what I wanted of my controllers, not to think about them. In terms of comfort, it's definitely very ergonomic. I could hold this for many hours. It definitely feels more primed for the angle that having my thumbs on the thumbsticks would have, but this is definitely adequate, and I am quite pleased. I think if I'm looking for one controller to play all my games retro style, this is a very, very good candidate. But how does it do in modern games? We're in Apex, I'm on the firing range, which is my preferred way to test controllers, and this is pretty responsive. I don't really like the curve on the right stick. I'm having a little bit of trouble getting it to feel really natural, but it's not like an input latency or a actual issue with the curve. I think it's just getting used to it. These sticks do feel pretty nice, fairly smooth. They have the plastic ring and the kind of metal on the actual stick, which helps make it a very smooth experience. They don't feel like the nicest sticks I've ever used, but for modern games, this is definitely a good one. Let's try these trigger stops, see if I like that better. Oh yeah, I dig that. That's way better. You know what, this is a very accurate controller. I like the way this feels. I definitely could see myself using this in a competitive setting. Even though it's not necessarily a competitive controller, it still has 1,000 hertz polling rate over X input. It goes lower and lower if you use Bluetooth in terms of input latency, but that's normal. So if you're someone that plays only competitive games, I probably would look elsewhere. There's a lot of really, really good, similarly priced controllers that are better for shooters or racing games or other kinds of modern games. But if you're someone that plays a little bit of everything, I think that the 8BitDo Pro 3 is a really excellent option that you should check out. It feels very good quality for its price. It has a very unique shape and offers kind of a use case that there isn't that many options for. It's the rare example of a decent D-pad on a modern controller. It has all the extra buttons you could want for your modern games, and it has like neat little extras like those little joystick knobbins and the face button change-ups, which makes this a pretty good package for 70 bucks. I think you could do a lot worse for that, considering you get the dongle and the dock. I don't hate the gray. I think that's kind of the most classic looking one. It also comes in white, but also a purple, sort of a GameCube aesthetic, although it would be nice if the sticks, at least on the right side, had been yellow for it. And so let me know down below if this is a controller that interests you. Why don't you just comment that? Or if you have a preferred controller, comment that one down below. Maybe we can check it out sometime on another ShortCircuit, just like you can check out another ShortCircuit, like the one we did on the Cyclone. I really like that controller as well.